ask you, Mark, how substantial is that? AB's out.
Well, I think it's substantial. I mean, AB's still a really good player, and there is a rapport that he has with Tom Brady. But when you look at the rest of that roster, when you've got Mike Evans, you have Chris Godwin, you have Scotty Miller, and you have Gronkowski, and you have Cameron Brate. I mean, you want to talk about just a embarrassment of riches. That's what they have in Tampa Bay. So, yeah, is that a problem that he's out? Absolutely. Do they have enough players and enough really dynamic players to make up for it? Of course they do.
Listen, I feel that Green Bay-Tampa game is, to me, feels kind of simple. If Aaron Rodgers has time to throw, I like his chances. They put tremendous pressure on him early in the year. Vita Vea, you know him well. You've done Buck games. Very good player, will play. If I said today, just matchups and what you know about the league, do you believe Rodgers will be comfortable Sunday in that pocket?
I do, and I think part of that is Rodgers. Part of that has to be part of the way they run the football. I think part of that has to do with your snap count, your cadence. I think plays a big part in this. Like when you're blitzing a quarterback, you have to be able to affect that quarterback on the fourth step. You have to be able to make him alter his throw on the fourth step, or have to be able to get rid of that football on that fourth step. And so if you can make that take 5 or 6 steps to get to the quarterback, well, then you've got time for the double move. Then you've got time to hold on to the ball and let that route develop. You go back to the first matchup in October between these two teams. They blitzed Rodgers. They understood. They squatted on the routes that Rodgers was throwing, and they affected that throw early. And he threw 2 picks. If it's 5 picks on the season, I think it's 5 picks on the season. 2 of them were in that game. One was a pick 6, and one went back to about the 2-yard line. So, like, they were able to affect him on the blitz package. Can they control that from a coaching standpoint with running the football, from cadence? Can they control kind of the pressure that you're going to get? And that to me is, really the difference in this game. If they can control that, Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers will have great success.
You played some playoff games in Denver, probably won those games, played in snow. Tampa, warm weather team moving up, possible snow. Do you think it has any advantage or effect on the game at all? You've played in games like that.
Yeah, not really. I mean, it's cold for both teams. You just have to be mentally prepared for it. But snow is not really that much of a factor. Now, if it's wet and nasty, then that to me is a factor. But just pure snow doesn't really, to me, it's not really a disadvantage to throwing the football or to the offense. So I don't really concern myself with snow. Tom Brady has played in the snow, and Gronkowski's played in the snow their whole career. Those guys will be prepared for it. They're a nasty football team. They'll get over that.
All right. I like Green Bay to win. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I do as well, Colin. I mean, I think that Aaron Rodgers is playing at such a high level. I love the way they dominate a line of scrimmage. I look at a guy like Billy Turner, who to me was kind of a journeyman type of guy. Went from Miami, then he went over to Denver, and he started games at right guard. He started games at right tackle. He started in the playoffs at left tackle. He has been tremendous for them. Their offensive line has been tremendous. They've dominated a line of scrimmage, and that to me is how you win football games. And I think the Packers have done a great job with that.
All right, let's go Kansas City, Buffalo. I kind of marveled at it. I said the Chiefs look like the first team in my life that's an NBA team. Great NBA teams can kind of just, don't play with great passion or urgency. Then Shaq, Kobe, playoffs come, and they just flip a switch. In the NFL, I've never seen it work that way. New England played hard for 20 years. It didn't work that way. Kansas City sleepwalks through the last 6 weeks of the regular season, struggled to put away Atlanta, and then last week their offense comes in with a hobbled quarterback. They just move the ball up and down the field. And I'm like, okay, what are we looking at here? Were you as impressed with that as I was?
I have been so impressed with them from the standpoint of I just don't believe in the flip the switch mentality. I just don't believe you can win that way. And yet Kansas City doesn't have a problem doing it. They are so talented. Their quarterback is so good. They do such an amazing job of creating different looks and adjustments as an offense. And it's almost, to me, I think one of the things you have to fight when you're a really good football team is boredom. And I think Andy Reid has done a great job of keeping guys engaged through schematics, through formations, through personnel groupings, through trick plays. Something is different every single week. And I think that's one of the things that has kept these guys for the Kansas City Chiefs totally engaged. They are so talented. And you're right. They have the ability to flip the switch. I've never seen a team be able, an offensive team that has that ability to do that. And I think the other thing about them, they're so overshadowed. Their offense so overshadows their defense. They still have guys, whether it's Frank Clark or Chris Jones, guys that you have to have an understanding of how are we going to block these guys, right? Like these guys are guys that deserve double teams, and that we're going to have to figure that out. So they're a far more talented team on the defensive side than I think anybody gives them credit for, because their offense is so good.
Do you worry that Josh Allen is too much a part of Buffalo's offense, whereas Aaron Rodgers can lean on Aaron Jones and the Bucs offense? They've had a running game last 2 weeks. Do you think the Bills are too Josh Allen centric?
I don't. I don't think that's a long-term recipe for success, but I think you can win one game that way. And I think, Josh Allen it wouldn't surprise me at all if, he's got a couple of designed runs, 5 or 6 designed runs. If he's got a couple of scrambles that are off-schedule scrambles, he's just that talented. The thing about Brian Dable, their offensive coordinator, having a conversation with him, he was very adamant, and you don't have to run the ball. You just have to run it when you have to run it, right? You have to run it sometimes in the red zone. You have to run it on second down and 2 at times. Like, I just need to be able to do that when I have to be able to do that. Same thing with throwing the football. So they're kind of uniquely built that way. And I think part of the plan, obviously, with Josh Allen is he'll be one of the guys, to me, will be a main ball carrier in this offense. He's so big, so strong, and so athletic. That's truly 11-on-11 football, and I think you'll see them exercise kind of that aspect of their offensive football team. All right.
If you had to pick a winner, who would you like here?
All things being equal, if Patrick Mahomes is healthy, I'm taking the Chiefs. And I do think, defensively, I think the Bills are a really good football team. They don't have one war daddy that you're like, how are we going to block that dude? Like, you can go 5 across the board, 5-0 protection, get 5 guys out in the pattern and just go, you know what, we think we can hold up. I think they've got a great rotation. I think they've got a lot of really good players. They don't have that one player that truly threatens an offense. So you're not afraid to go 5 one-on-ones across the board and say, we're going to win with Hill. We're going to win with our tight end, Kelsey. We're going to win with our receivers, and our quarterback's going to be able to deliver the football.
Finally, every year there's about 7 or 8 new NFL coaches hired. On average, we looked it up, about 2 are home runs. The rest get fired or just average. Yesterday, Dan Campbell at the press conference a couple days ago for Detroit talked about biting kneecaps. It had a very pro wrestler feel to it. Got to be honest, not a great opening presser for me. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it does. Your thoughts on that whole bite kneecaps alpha male thing for Dan Campbell?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't a great press conference either. I just don't know how much you really listen to that. The rah stuff, some of that stuff, we're simple creatures, and post some bulletin board material and it'll get you upset and whatever. But ultimately, you look at the Detroit Lions, and I did a couple of their games. Their roster is not talented enough. Yeah. I don't care how many kneecaps you bite. I don't think there's anybody on their defense, to me, at any level of their defense, D-line, linebacking core, or in their back end secondary, that is an elite level player. So, you can talk about, your toughness, and you can talk about, whatever you want to talk about. You got to have players to execute it. And they just don't have enough good players right now. So, here's the other thing. I have been in the locker room of a Super Bowl in a pregame speech where Tom Jackson was in there, and he told me, hey, man, that was the greatest pregame speech I'd ever heard before you guys took the game to play the Green Bay Packers in Super Bowl 32. He goes, what'd you think of it? And I go, I don't know. I wasn't listening. Like, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to that at all. I go, I was focused on what I had to do to help my team win. I didn't hear one word Mike Shanahan said, so I don't remember any of it. Like, I think most players can tune you out because they've got their own issues that they got to worry about.
Good stuff, Mark. Mark Schlereth, Fox Sports. See you, buddy.
See you, bud.
Brandon Staley, Chargers' new coach, was the Rams' defensive coordinator, did face the Packers' offense and Aaron Rodgers. He'll be joining us next hour. Excited for that. Young guy got a job. Like to see young people get gigs. I think it was a year of good candidates. I don't love all the hires. I think some of the fits are weird. As I said, I think Urban Meyer to the Jags is going to work because of Trevor Lawrence mostly. You could do a lot right and a lot wrong, but if you got the right quarterback, it all kind of works out. I mean, you see Mike McCarthy in Dallas without Aaron Rodgers. You see Aaron Rodgers without Mike McCarthy. It's kind of an Aaron thing. It's kind of tweak Aaron, and he's great. Coming up next, the stat that has to worry you if you're a Chiefs fan. It's not arguable. It's just discussable. And we've seen it now for 2 months, and I don't think it's going away this weekend. That's